morning, everybody. Welcome to Focus Friday. I am Brandon Schutte, Managing Director of CBC Prime Properties. We have a very special presentation for you today. Today we have Mr. Dan Speigel, Managing Director of all Coldwell Banker Commercial and a real friend of Prime Properties. He was actually a keynote speaker at our Economic Summit last year in 2021, actually. So Dan, welcome.
Thanks very much, Brandon. Great to be here this morning.
Yeah. So we're excited to hear what you got going on. I think you have a couple slides. Quick talk for us.
I can go in any order you'd like. We can. I can't say exactly who's on. It's the three of us right now, so I assume everyone's out there. Good morning and happy Friday. All right, Focus Friday. Good, TGIF, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll hit a couple slides and only really as discussion starters. And Brandon, if you help, and Carrie, you help facilitate, we'll kind of go from there if that's okay. So let me get into slide presentation mode. Oops, security alert. Not sure what that's about. Okay. And let me switch so I get the, all right. And then let's see here. I have to, where's the screen share button as a presenter? Where do I have the screen share button here? There it is, share screen, got it. All right, took me a moment. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, you can let me know when you see it. All right, cool. All right, Focus Friday with CBC. So again, Dan Speigel, Managing Director of Coldwell Banker Commercial. First of all, I just want to give out a shout out. I don't know who's on. I can't see who the rest of you is. Mike on from your team, your top producer of last year in commercial?
Mike Foster might be upstairs. We're doing a watch party on our commercial floor. Actually.
Okay. All right. I was just going to give a shout out because he is your top 2 performer for 2021. And when I say top 2, I mean the top 2% of Coldwell Banker commercial professionals across the U.S. And I think, if I remember correctly, he's coming to our top 2 event in Monterey, California in 2 weeks, and look forward to seeing him. So I just wanted to give a shout out. I don't remember. I've only been here 3 years and we've only done, I think, I guess we've done 3 events now. This will be our 3rd, but it's great to have people of all kinds of markets. And I will just say to this is never say that I'm in a small market. I can't reach that level because some of our best performers are markets large and small, right? So congratulations to Mike. If he's not there, Brandon, pass along my good wishes. So how's that?
I absolutely will.
All right. So I'll give you some little thoughts of stuff, and you just tell me where you want to go. But let's just talk about where, common question. I just came back from ICSC. So earlier this week, I was in Las Vegas. And I did ask our people about, what do you think? Where's the market at today, right? Unfortunately, we're inundated with news, be it on social and, whatever news source you happen to use. And it's overwhelming to some degree, right? It's like, where are we going? The good news, I will talk from a CBC standpoint as well, is business is great. We're having our revenue overall is up 30 or 40% this year. So that's great. And that's not over 2020, which is really obviously in early in 2021, things were already recovering. So it's not off the low point. Frankly, it's off a pretty good point. And as you can see here, it's not an anomaly because across the US, and this is according to Real Capital Analytics as of the end of the first quarter, prices were up across all property types across the country. Cap rates get compressed when prices go up, but across the board, there was the fear of what's happening to retail. Retail's doing okay, apartments in particular. And what's not shown on here is land sales. Land sales is really been a big part of our success the past year. Some of our biggest, we just closed a deal, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago in Texas, and it was a $26 or $32 million land sale for development, not ag land, for development. So business is good. All that said, I talked to a Wall Street Journal reporter when I was out in Vegas, and I always say, it's like, don't forget, commercial real estate is a lagging industry. It's a lagging. And why is it a lagging industry? Because the deals that you're working on today or closing today started 6 to 9 months ago, right? Our business cycle is so much longer. So that said, when I was at the booth, we had about 60 CBC professionals there. I, keep socializing and asking the questions. I say, hey, what's going on? The good news is they'll say, like, listen, the market's still strong. They'll say, like, maybe instead of 5 offers on that multifamily, I had 2. So that's, but I'm not hearing news about, people aren't returning my calls or they can't make decisions and things like that. So I guess just from a general market standpoint, and someone in here can comment otherwise, is things are still pretty good. Now, that's as of today. We'll see what happens the rest of the year. One thing to keep an eye on, and I bring this up all the time, is cap rates versus versus the 10-year treasury for whatever reason in the industry, that's a key discussion point. As that spread gets narrower and narrower, it tends to signal change in pricing. And, so we're sort of at the point, you can see the dashed line here is the average sort of spread between cap rates and 10-year treasuries. And we're at a point now where we're actually below that average spread. So that would tend to indicate that pricing expectations are going to have to change because people won't buy at the cap rates that are out there as the interest rates go up. And as developers put in money, they often borrow money based on the 10-year treasury. So as the 10-year treasury goes up, which happens in a high interest rate environment or an increasing interest rate environment, they've got to get better returns. So it may mean, so that's one side. So it may mean a halt on or a slowdown in development. On the other hand, it also means people that are acquiring properties are going to be looking for more value add properties. So they can take over a property and increase the rent, whatever it is, retail, office, whatever it is, and get the return. So it's just sort of a shift into, stabilized asset perhaps into value add, because you got to figure out a way to extend that 10-year treasury to cap rate gap. All right, so that's just something I'm thinking about. We do keep this chart up to date every quarter now. We get the data from a variety of sources. So I hear it talked about a lot. Change of subject a little bit. So I think, Brandon, I'm just going on, Brandon, you to give me some things to talk about. So just as one, I think we as a brand. Oh, sorry?
This was my absolute favorite slide from leadership.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. So yeah, so this is interesting. So I like to say, I feel so bullish on CBC. I'm so excited. We are adding, quite a few, in general, I'll call it your general neighborhood. We added a franchisee in Topeka, Kansas recently. We have another one coming on to Virginia Beach, Virginia next week. Our franchisee, some of the newer ones have closed deals within 4 months. It's great. But what this slide really tells you about is, and this is particularly true in a market like Grand Junction or that you're part of Colorado. There's the big institutional companies at the top there, JLL, CB, Colliers, Cushman, Newmark, and all those. I used to work for Colliers. And they're all great companies and they do great things, but they're not in Grand Junction, Colorado, right? They're not in Missoula, Montana, or even Topeka, Kansas. So they cover the institutional, the corporate, the global business, but to some extent, they're almost our client, right? We want to be the go-to company when they have a listing if they're not going to take it themselves. And they can't always, particularly in dispositions of like corporate space. We want to be their go-to partner for sure. But that's one type of business. At the opposite end of the pyramid, there's a lot of deals under $1 million or $2 million. There's a lot of them. And some of those, I don't like the word resi-commercial. I tend to call it MLS commercial. It's the type of commercial business that you would find on the MLS. And that space is very busy. 74,000 transactions in 2021, which is increased at 34%, but it's also very crowded. Everyone and their mother or their brother says, I can do this deal. I can do this deal. Now, some of them can, some of them can't. I won't get into that, but it's a crowded space. And we have this great sweet spot in CBC of what I call the private capital or the lower mid cap between $2 and $25 million, where it's too sophisticated a business, frankly, for that MLS commercial agent to be able to handle. It may be too small for some of the larger firms to dip down into, and there's not nearly as much competition. And the other thing is we just have the best brand recognition in that bunch. While people can be critical and say, well, you're a residential brand. I said, yeah, but you know what? If you're working with high net worth individuals, private investors, regional developers, Coldwell Banker is a name they know. They don't know who SVN is. They don't know who Marcus and Millichap is necessarily. And we have a household name, right? So let's take advantage of it. But it's a great sweet spot. You can just see the percentage of growth. There has been a great growth year in 2021 over 2020, but there are 43,000 transactions in that space. And there's plenty of room for us to handle that space and to be dominant in that space, which is super exciting to me. I didn't have the slide here, but I think Real Capital Analytics, who provided the data on the prior side, they aggregate all commercial transactions above 2.5 million in the United States. We ranked number 15, right? I think we were 15 or 16 at the end of the first quarter, which is amazing, right? Amazing given the markets that we're in. I don't care that we're not 1 through 8 because we're not CBJLO. We're not selling buildings in Manhattan. Totally cool with me. But to be number 15 in the country out of 1,200 companies is amazing to me. And anyway, congratulations. Thanks to all of you that contributed that as well. All right, so that's a little bit about us. I'm going to, again, jumping around a little bit. One of the things that you wanted to touch on, Brandon, that I think I love talking about is the opportunity we have as a brand to cultivate more business between our residential and our commercial business, right? I think I visited you guys, what was that, September last year when we did the presentation at the Grand Junction Economic Development or Partnership, whatever it's called. And we didn't talk about this, but I want to share this kind of, and this was an unsolicited, I'll call it testimonial, if you will, but it was not intended as. So hopefully you can read it. If not, I'll do a little reading for you because it might be really small on your screen. But here's a guy, Frederick Lewis. I don't know Frederick from Adam, never heard of him before in my life. Many of you may know I'm very active on LinkedIn. So I happened to read this post he makes. He said $50 million in deals. Last 30 days, he's closed 9 deals totaling $50 million, thanks to Dan Magoo. Dan Magoo is our #1 producer at CBCs in San Francisco, does multifamily and whatever. He goes on and on about how he closed these deals, and it's fantastic. So I'm like, great. So, being the person I am, if you're passive on social media, that doesn't do anything for your reputation. You make comments. So I say, hey, thanks for sharing your comments of how Dan Magoo helped you achieve your goals. Since 1906 in San Francisco, our mission as CBC is to work as pathfinders for our clients. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Congratulations on your success. Yeah, I just meant that as a really nice thing to say. But let's look at his comment back. Again, someone I don't know. He says, Dan, hey, Dan is Dan, and speaking of Dan Magoo, is of course a first class and extremely competent agent. Oh yeah, but there's 4 other Coldwell Banker agents I recognized. Nick Johnson did a phenomenal job managing numerous challenges to get my house sold near St. Francis Wood. And then Steve Caravelli helped me with this other deal. So to me, that is just the embodiment of what we should be doing, right? Here's a guy who invested in real estate who had, I don't know if it's a global luxury house or not. It's in San Francisco, so I'm going to assume it's quite pricey. But recognizing that we are really the true full service commercial real estate firm. Full service real estate services firm, right? JLLCB can talk about that, but they frankly do all their services around commercial appraisal, lending, and so forth. We really are the true commercial full service firm, which I think is super cool. And I just think it's a huge opportunity for us with our 100,000 of residential agents. I say to myself all the time, if 5% of them would refer a commercial deal, that's 5,000 transactions a year, right? 5,000, that's a lot. If only half of those turn into a real deal, because some of them not all great leads, right? 2,500 a year. So, Brandon, one of the things you had talked about is just how to leverage and what we can be doing. It's continuing and encouraging the conversation, also commercial clients about residential and vice versa, because we can truly be the full service firm for clients. It's exciting. Go ahead. You're going to say?
Talked about global luxury and commercial typically probably have the same clientele.
100%. Because if you're a high net worth individual, made it from business or investment, guess what? You might own a business or make business decisions, and that could be leasing or buying a real estate space. Or you could be an investor because you've earned money. And let's, before I go into the next point here about just to emphasize that, but forget when the stock market is super volatile, what is, frankly, I should go back in this couple slides, but why is commercial real estate still kind of good these days? Stock market volatility, what does it do? It drives people to other types of investment assets. What's another investment class? Commercial real estate. Real estate is often thought to be a safe harbor for volatile markets like the stock market. Second, when there's turmoil globally in places like, it doesn't matter, where it is, Ukraine or wherever else, when there's uncertainty globally, where does international money tend to go? Tends to come into the US. So despite all of our craziness in the US, right, we still are the safe haven for investors of real estate. So back to your point, Brandon, global luxury clients, I won't say absolutely, I'm going to say there's a very strong chance that they either make real estate decisions or invest in real estate. And we should be having that conversation because if we do a great job on the residential, we can help them in their business or personal investment life as well.
That's right. Like I said, full service. Yeah.
As I said, full service. And I truly believe we are really the full service firm, not the big commercial firms. Anyway, another analogy is this, and it's something I like to share. So I think everyone knows who Best Buy is, and if I asked you if we were in a room, I'd say, what do they do? What do they do? They sell electronics, right? Pretty much. Well, interestingly, at the end of last year, they acquired a company called Yardbird. don't know if you know what Yardbird is, but they're an outdoor living outdoor living furniture firm, right? And you're thinking, why would they do that? Well, because they did research, just to emphasize the point we just talked about. They did research saying, what do people also search for and look at when they join? Oh, sorry about that. What do they look for when they're looking for electronics? They're also looking for furniture. So again, that's kind of my point about the global luxury. What else are people looking for? What else are they talking? Ask those questions. Because just like Best Buy went into Yardbird, Best Buy, we can go into either residential or commercial, depending where the client relationship starts. Another example I'd love to give, same point, is just simply on how banks work, right? Now, this is starting to seem a little antiquated because who goes to a bank anymore? But at the same time, why is it that when you're young, you set up an account at a bank? And the next thing they do is they want you to have savings. And then they try to get you to have a credit card. And after the credit card, they try to get you to have a mortgage. And after that, they want you to have a home equity line. After that, they want you to open a managed investment account. Why do they do that? Because you get sticky. It gets really hard. How many people have changed banks and the like? Maybe it's a good idea to change, right? But you don't, because it's just too hard. And the same thing can be true in our business, right? You can start out with an apartment lease, and then you can sell the person a home. And then you can maybe sell them an investment property. And then maybe you can help them in their business life. And then maybe you can handle property management if that's something that you do in your area. Or you can help them buy a vacation home. We should think of it as the same way, right? Why limit ourselves to a transaction every 7 years or 5 years, whatever the cycle is, when you can really help the full life cycle? So same point about the global luxury. There's just a lot of opportunity if we look at one of our best referral sources, which is ourselves, right? And it's just a matter of working with our colleagues on the residential side, as well as working with our clients on the commercial side, and have conversations about their holistic life, their personal life, their business life, and how can we help them.
Love it.
Yep. So let's see what else. So again, changing subjects a little bit. You were talking about what's new at CVC, what's going on. I am super excited. If you're not aware, first of all, I don't know who's a podcast listener, but I'm going to say, hey, if you're just starting, listen to the CVC podcast. We've got some great stuff. Not, A, to make you smarter in the business, B, to reinforce our reputation out there in the marketplace, and C, in case you don't know what's going on. So let me just give you some great examples here. So first, the current podcast, I think it's not this episode, it's the one right before it, is one with Withco. Withco was at the global conference. Brandon, you were at the global conference, and some of your colleagues there. So Withco is a company that helps small businesses that are leasing space acquire their property over time and become a property owner. So you have a freestanding building, a small community business, I don't know, let's say it's 5,000 square feet. Withco will buy the property potentially, lease it back to the business with the goal of helping them within 5 years qualifying for an SBA loan to acquire the property from Withco. It's a great conversation starter. Listen, you don't have to do it, but it's a great conversation starter if you're making a cold call saying, hey, have you ever thought about this opportunity? It's also a great way to socialize with within your chamber of commerce and other places, because it's a great community builder to think that we know of a path for business owners to reach real estate ownership. So listen to there was 2 episodes ago, great conversation with Withco. This past week, we featured a company called CrowdStreet. Some of you may be for CrowdStreet, Realty Mogul, I think it's called Highrise or Fundrise. These are all what were formerly known as crowdsource funding for commercial real estate. These have really matured. CrowdStreet itself, I can't remember the numbers, but they're investing millions and millions of dollars every year with people that have put 20, 30, 40 million in. Another great thing to know about, if you're not aware, listen to the podcast, just become smarter, the smartest guy or gal at the cocktail party. Going back a number of episodes, one of my favorites of last month is a 2-part episode we did with KO Storage. KO Storage is a relationship that I learned of out of a CVC broker in Minneapolis. They invest in self-storage properties in secondary and tertiary markets. They found this interesting niche that a lot of these secondary markets, say like Grand Junction and others, didn't have kind of professional management and ownership of self-storage. So that's their business model. I want to say they're in 16 or 18 states now. Super engaging podcast. We did part 1 and 2. Great to increase your knowledge and great to think about in terms of your specialization. And then last, once a month, we drop a podcast called, in case you missed it, that Matt Kornfein does. And that's just internal facing, right? That's just news about what's going on at CBC. So Brandon, one of your topics on your list was what's new at CBC. I can tell you, or you can listen to the 9-minute podcast once a month and you can find out for yourself. I don't need to spoon feed you. It's super easy. Put it on your car, listen to it. 9 minutes. How long is that, right? Hopefully maybe that's your commute. Maybe it's your walk. Maybe it's for a run. Doesn't matter, but there's no excuse not to know what's going on if you have at least the podcast in your pocket.
Great. And it's also technology, right? Enforcing technology into our daily lives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge podcast guy outside of real estate. There's some great real estate podcasts. I just listen to them. I'm a big craft cocktail guy. I listened to one on my walk yesterday about gin, right? Whatever. Everyone's got their own personal interests. I don't want to make myself out to be some kind of lush or something, but we're doing this to build the brand, first of all. And I should say, further, if you have a client, a developer, an investor, someone who's got an interesting story, we are more than happy to reach out and say, would you like to be on our podcast? It strengthens your relationship. It helps them reach. So we are always looking we generally have 3 kinds of podcasts. We have the real estate industry, we have the internal, and then we try to look for something kind of like a social good, women in real estate or, affordable housing. If you know anybody that would be a great guest, let me know. I'm happy to set up. I don't do the podcast, my team does, but it reinforces your relationship and it looks good for all of us. So.
Absolutely.
Something to think about. All right. That was it, Brandon. I don't know. Those are just some things based on the list that you had shared with me that might be of interest. I'm going to look at the chat here if there's anything here. Love the podcast, says Kelsey. Great. Listen to all the new ones. Thank you. Appreciate that. And let's see, what else can I talk about? I know you just, while we were waiting here, you had some representation of the future CBC website. It is fully under development. It will, I'm going to go out on a limb. It will be here before the end of the year. It's not as reskin. It is a complete overhaul. So it's going to be much more, what we expect in life in terms of a website. What we have now, is 12 years old, right? It doesn't look fresh. So it's going to be fresh looking. It's going to have the look and feel of any other website you have today. And we're going to incorporate some really cool technology. So you can do your email blast from it. You can see who clicked on your listing, downloaded your OM, all that kind of stuff. What's incumbent upon you and your team is please keep your profiles up to date. Please don't have a picture of you on the website that looks like you're in high school, or that the language in it, the little descriptor box says I won the top producer award in 2007, right? It just doesn't represent us well. Your marketing team, whoever, you can go on and update this. Just make an effort. Because even as, kind of not up to my standard, the website is today, it's still important. It'll far get more hits than any, your personal website in general. And once we have the new look and feel, we feel it'll feel really cool. It's going to have the embedded maps. It's going to have cool stuff. So I imagine one of your people were on the call yesterday. We went through some of it. And again, it's underway. So I think that's probably our biggest and coolest initiative for this year.
Yeah, super mobile friendly too. When they did the presentation on it, it looks fantastic. Like you said, it has a fresh new look. So
yeah. So Jimmy's asking me, are you seeing companies moving away from work from home employees and bringing them back to the office? Boy, Jimmy, that is the $1 million question, isn't it? So if you're active on LinkedIn, there is 2 things on social, but we have a private Facebook group for CBC on Facebook, and we have a private group on LinkedIn. Kind of different. We don't duplicate the content on LinkedIn. It's not as active, but I do post articles. I think I just shared one yesterday on this exact topic. So it's more of a businessy focus on the private LinkedIn group. If you'd like to join. So the answer is, I don't know. And I don't think any company knows either. So what that article that I shared yesterday was about is there's a certain amount of tension between employers and employees today. Right. And there's no necessarily, I'll say, consistency, right, in terms of what employees want. I will say, for one, I don't love being at home a lot. I thrive on being around other people. But that said, I understand that there's people they're managing, elder care, child care, whatever. And maybe it's a good thing to be close to home. I can't say, but the answer is I think the average in America today is something like somewhere between 40 and 50% of people are going to the office, mostly Tuesday through Thursday. Castle, the key card people, I don't know if your office is key carded or not, but they generally make those little plastic cards you tap into your office. Just Google them because they report data all the time on because obviously they have a lot of data, right? How often are people going into the office? I'm going to say this. I think, the pandemic brought out a lot of lifestyle issues that we may or may not, we may make people kind of realize I like my home life. I want to have more time with family, right? And that brings into question. So some employers, even like ourselves, I find, yes, working at home is very convenient. I totally get it. At the same time, I have conversations when I'm in the office or meeting someone face to face. I talk about things I would never talk about on Zoom or Teams or whatever. I just will, because there's a different dynamic when you're in person. So I think companies and employees are struggling with that. And it'll still be, we're still, whatever. So it's another wave now or whatever it is. We're still working through it. I think we'll see in a year what people really think about it. More and more companies are saying work from anywhere, which is a good thing when it comes to talent. It doesn't really work in the real estate business where you need to go meet people and drive and be there. So it doesn't quite work that way.
Our job is building relationships. It's hard to do when you're at home by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And Brad, I think another one of your questions is where do you, sometimes you ask me something about where do you get clients or how do you get clients, something like that. And I all the young when I speak to the CRE Win class, it used to be EBT class, that class that's online. One of the things I always tell them, you will never do a deal with someone you've never met. You will never do. So if you've got to be out there, you have to be cold calling, you have to be prospecting. You have to be working internally. You have to be going to CBC conferences. Don't complain you never get a CBC referral and never go to an event where anyone gets to meet you, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense. You want to be in front of people. Anyway, that's just my speech. Carrie, how are rising interest rates affecting the commercial investor? I think the answer is, so I showed you the chart before about interest rates and cap rates and what that means to the market. Listen, what I hear is there's still a lot of cash in the marketplace for commercial real estate. So there's a whole segment of buyers that don't rely on the private or the lending market, right? Not the public lending market. And those are 1031 buyers. They're people that have cashed in other investments or whatever. So the answer is those cash buyers are kind of not impacted by interest rates, right? That said, there is a segment of the market, I would say probably going back to my pyramid chart, that $2 million and below, those people are a lot more impacted by interest rates. Limited, small or private limited partnerships, less so, because those are collecting funds for people that have available cash. It does impact things like builders, right? Because they borrow money to do build out or construction and things like that. So yes, it does impact it along with all the supply chain issues. But unlike the residential market, although we're even seeing now that's only so impacted by rising interest rates, it's impactful, but it's not a showstopper, right? I think at this point. And we all, even on the residential side, we know 5% interest rates are not crazy by historical standards. They're just high relative to 3%, 6 months ago.
Right.
That's my 2 cents, Gary.
Nice.
What else? What other questions? Again, I can't see faces. So, Brandon, what other questions? I'm trying to think of your list you shared with me. What else did you want me to?
Well, I we talked about getting listings and networking. I guess my question is, cold calling, prospecting. Historically, that's how you get deals. But with technology coming on board, do you see social media as a having more of an impact on getting clients or getting listings?
Yeah,
social
good.
media, websites. I know that's what do you, as far as the top sources of leads?
Yeah, great question. So a couple things. I mean, I'm still going to say like relationships matter, right? We're not a, click, put the real estate in your basket and check out kind of business. Right. And there's some of that, and net lease retail investments do kind of work like that. If you're buying a 15-year net lease Walgreens, it's like a bond, you don't necessarily need to see it, but real estate's still a high touch industry. So a couple things. So in terms of, I mean, I am, again, another thing I say to that first class is I am a true firm believer that what I learned in the business 30 years ago is cold calling and knowing your market is still super, super key. The commercial market is not as much a sphere of influence market like they talk about on the residential side. It's great to know people. But the best brokers I've seen in my career are the ones that, take a business park or a street and they go down and they make a point of knowing every owner and every parcel along that street or in the business park or in the mall, whatever it may be, right? They know the tenants, they know the owners, they keep a database, they're very methodical and they set a goal and they become the expert in that space. So I'm just going to say, that part doesn't change, right? I really believe that does not change. And by the way, CBC, with Jane Thorne-Leeson, is if we can generate cold calling lists, right? If you give us the kind of targets, we can help generate those lists, and you just have to be willing to pick up the phone, and you have to be. And I also tell the young people, it's like you have to have something of value to offer. If you call up and say, "Hi, I'm a real estate broker," blah blah blah, Brandon's going to call him in 20 minutes, say, "Hi, I'm a real estate." So how do you stand out? You always have to have something of value to offer. Right. Yeah. Did you know about the sale down the street? How is you ask questions about their business? If you went by, is the parking lot full? Is the parking lot empty? Are there trucks waiting to, Brandon, you have an industrial background, right? If do they have problems getting trucks to the docks in the back, right? Is the park, be observant, ask questions. That's how you learn about what's on someone's mind, a client's mind. Okay. Anyway, that's one. Brandon, I'm sorry.
Jane is one of my absolute favorite people with CBC. I love her to death, and she does such a great job. I work a lot with her on the mobile data stuff that we've.
Yeah. She's got some great tools out there, and we also have self-service tools. Don't forget, and we have the demographic self-service tool. I know we're running short on time, but I just want to hit one other thing you asked about social. So I'm going to mention this really quick. I am a huge fan of social. So again, just like meeting, don't be a stranger. Just liking posts doesn't get you anywhere. Just like you saw the interaction I had with a client. Comment, right? Offer content, right? Coldwell Banker Commercial, CBC, we have blog posts. We have, you were showing them earlier, we have YouTube videos. We have all kinds of stuff. Use that as your content, right? Make sure you're making a statement. I posted something. I had over 120, likes and about 12 comments from one silly picture I took at ICSC that shows we're in the game. We've got a super cool new booth. You should be doing the same thing. I find LinkedIn invaluable. I'm on it all the time, Brandon. I know you do a good job on it as well. Maybe your team. I find it invaluable because you want to be known, right? Again, just like the referral, you got to be known. And I think furthermore, the other thing that comes up a lot, Brandon, in markets like yours is like, well, my market's small. I can't be a specialist, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I'll kind of buy that, but you can do one thing to make a living, do this variety of deals, but you do want to be known for something. Are you the best industrial guy or gal, the multifamily or the land, right? You can make money on the side or not on the side, but doing deal, but you need a reputation. You want people to go like, "Oh, you have an apartment building? Well, you got to talk to Brandon, or you got to talk to Carrie, or you got to talk, you want that reputation. So you only get that reputation by promotion and awareness. And a key area for me, at least, is social and in LinkedIn in particular.
Nice. I agree with you. I think you don't have to be a specialist only in one industry type. You can do them all. You just want to specialize in one of them that gets your reputation. So.
Correct. You want to be known for something. If there's a new retail developer, what are they going to do? Who's coming to Grand Junction? They're going to like, whose name do I see on the retail listings? Right. Whose name do I see in the newspaper on the retail deals? Whatever it is, right? It's, as I said, it's okay to make a living from doing multiple things, but you want to have a reputation, and it's okay to pivot that reputation as the market. One day you're a land broker, the next day you're you're a user broker. I don't know. It's okay to pivot like that. There's no problem. Other questions?
Dan,
I know we're out of time, but I just want to say, did I answer everything for you, Brandon?
You did fantastic. I really appreciate you getting on here. I know that you had a busy week last week and traveling all the way up until last night, so. Really appreciate you coming out and talking with us, and I really appreciate it, and hopefully everybody else took some stuff from this too.
Well, don't be a stranger. I'm more than happy. Send me a note, send me an email. You should be able to find me. It's not hard, or anybody on my team for that matter. We appreciate it. We like being in contact. We want to know what's meaningful to you, so make sure you stay in touch.
When you're ready to get out of town, you always got Grand Junction. You got a spot here.
So I've only been there once, I visited, actually, through CBC, I visited a lot of cool places. And I keep telling my wife, we got to go back and look at that place. We got to go back someday in life, someday.
You need to come here to play, not work.
Exactly.
Awesome, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon or morning rather. Sorry. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.